Liftoff of mission 41B. First flight of the orbital Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Health or High Water podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tripp Parks. I'm here joined with the amazing Leslie. How you doing today, Leslie?
Great. How's everybody doing out there?
Well, we have, 55 different countries we're hosted on right now.
Can't keep up. It's just multiplying like rabbits.
All the countries just want to get in the fold. What do we call our... We need to come up with a name with our viewers. Wellness weirdos?
Oh, that's terrible.
That's terrible. We'll have to come up with... Maybe you guys out there listening right now can come up with your guys' fan names.
Podsters?
I kind of like that.
Casters.
Well,
Those are like wheels. I don't like that either.
Die-cast. But anyway, some news. We were supposed to have Dr. Anna Person on today. Unfortunately, she's sick. It seems like everyone in Denver is coughing something up or what have you. So hope she gets well soon. Thanksgiving.
Welcome to our health and wellness podcast, folks. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about hawking some shit.
Let's talk about hawking loogies.
Well, today, since we got Thanksgiving around the corner, Leslie and I thought we should talk a little bit about nutrition and meal prep, and with the holidays coming on, I think this is a perfect
General struggles.
General struggles. Leslie, you've been meal prepping pretty well here the past year and a half.
Yeah, I do meal prep quite regularly. I really do. Sometimes once in a while I have days where I don't or I'm busy. It's usually my Sunday afternoon adventure.
The meal prep.
Yeah.
How many meals do you make usually? Like what, 13 or 14?
Yeah, that's probably about right. At least a dozen. And sometimes it's multiple different kinds of meals. Sometimes it's just one of the same thing. It just kind of depends.
Do you find it easier making the same thing for everything?
Yeah, for sure. But I'll get a request from the gentlemen that occupy my house. They will be like, oh, hey, what about this? Can we do that? I really like this one. Or, this is fire, Mom. I hear that. It's fire. This goes hard. So I'll make a bunch of whatever's going hard that week. And then I had requests for beef stew once. So there was one week I did beef stew and rice and chicken. Good. And sometimes I have the energy for multiple. Sometimes I'm like, y'all are getting rice and chicken.
Well, it's also cheaper to get bulk in that kind of avenue, you know?
Yeah.
And like for me, when I meal prep, I try to do the same thing. Like, hey, this week is chicken, rice, and green beans. Next week is whatever. But I try to choose a different sauce for each day so you don't get too tired of it.
Yeah, I've kind of been doing spicy sauces lately. This week, though, I did grilled chicken. I did garbanzo beans or chickpeas, whichever you want to call them. But I did broccolini. And I did like fresh dill and little chunks of feta cheese and onion. And that was really good because it was kind of different, too. You know, I really didn't put a lot of sauce on there. There was a little bit of olive oil. That was about it.
That sounds absolutely delicious, though.
But yeah.
That sounds good.
I know. I should have brought you one, but I liked them.
Hey, no, you eat them up. Eat those garbanzo beans up.
Well, they're really good for you.
They're so good for you.
Yeah.
Like, even hummus itself is pretty decent for you.
Well, and shoot, I think I bought a 25-pound bag of garbanzo beans dry it was Costco or Sam's Club. I think it was like $20 or something. Like, you can eat that forever.
Let's dive into that, like, cheap meal prep alternatives. You know, that's something all of us are struggling over the holidays. Flights are more expensive than they ever been. Gas is more expensive than they've ever been. Groceries are more expensive. So let's dive into some cheap ways to meal prep. Like for myself, I love going to Costco or Sam's Club and getting just bulk, like you said, 5 pounds of garbanzo beans or rice, tons of chicken, tons of what have you, and do that. I think that's a much cheaper option than just like every week.
Well, yeah, and then cooking it yourself is usually better for you as well too than buying it already pre-done. I'd buy a lot at Costco and Sam's Club. Typically 25-pound bags of jasmine rice. I have found over at Costco Business Center, they do cases of chicken breast.
Cases?
Yes. So it's like 40 pounds of chicken breast, and it's like $1.89 a pound that way. So that's, I mean, granted, you spend, I know, you spend like $100, you know, for a case or whatever it is, but you'll have it forever. Well, not at my house, but you will have it for a longer period of time because you just package it up and freeze it.
Well, I think too, if you stick with one maybe one source of protein. You know what I mean? You try different things. Like I'm going to do shredded chicken this week. I'm going to do chicken stew or grilled chicken. So that's
When it's a lot less expensive than beef, I would prefer beef, like the organics or the grass fed, but that stuff's so expensive.
Beef is so expensive.
So if I catch it on sale, okay, but chicken is usually a pretty good go-to staple. I'll get tired of it. But
another protein source too, like fish, can be pretty cheap. Fish are pretty good.
some of them can. Some of them no. The ones I want never are.
No, of course not. No.
Okay.
There
are those days though where you're at Costco or Sam's Club and you're like, oh, you find the salmon on markdown or something.
Yep.
That's great. I'll snag them all then. But tuna in the can, I guess.
Well, you got to watch out about that because of the mercury.
That just makes me extra shiny.
I think I just tell the temperature better.
That makes me shiny.
Makes me super shiny. Do you see the silver coat I have?
I'm like my own jewelry, guys. I'm not worried about that. Seriously.
Well, I know to
talk about that, and then you put all your meal prep in plastic. What's wrong with you people?
BPA. So that's some cheap alternatives. I mean, honestly, one of these
veggies are not all that expensive either.
No, they're not.
I think some people say, "Oh, it's expensive to eat healthy." It's expensive to eat like organic, grass-fed. Those kinds of things are very expensive. I do agree with that, but you can usually get, $1 a pound for broccoli or something. Like
right.
You can usually buy a bunch of that. It just doesn't last as long. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's as expensive. If you start cutting out some of the processed crap and go with the other stuff, you probably save yourself a little bit of money in the long run. Stop eating chips and the fun stuff.
Yeah, well, at the same time, I agree with you. It's expensive to eat, as clean as you possibly can, but it's also expensive to eat unclean.
Well, yeah, because then your body craves it more and more, and you want it more and more. Or when's the last time you went to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or any of the fast food restaurants? Just one person, you're spending $15.
Yeah, it's the cost doesn't outweigh it, and even
it's still delicious. Sorry, fans.
I know I've got a special place in my heart for Big Macs.
Can't help it, spicy chicken sandwiches. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. I mean, alternatives, I guess. Chipotle's not too bad.
No.
I stay away from their brown rice. Like, if you really... yeah, that's hard when you're out and about and you're like, I don't have time to meal prep and I need to eat something. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And you can't trust the salads at places like McDonald's or Burger King or any of that either.
No.
I mean, ranch dressing has more calories in it than a damn burger.
I remember that statistic coming out when I was in high school about the salads being worse for you than the actual burgers, and you're like, oh my goodness. But also just speaking long term, right? Like take my mom, for example. She ate like shit for 20, 30, 40 years, and then look what happened. And now today we're starting radiation because she's got cancer. So it's expensive in the long run.
And have you noticed, like, if you haven't been doing that for a while and then you go somewhere and you get Wendy's or McDonald's or Taco Bell and, like, you just feel like a slug after that? Like, you physically feel funky.
Well, that's a good talking point about that. I have the same opinion with sodas because I don't drink sodas anymore. Like,
I really don't much either.
And like
once in a while.
But when you do have it, you're like, this is really sweet and strong.
Yep.
This is too much.
Yep.
I can usually only finish like a quarter of a Dr. Pepper before I tap out. I'm like, that's all I can do.
And I've kind of come into that mindset too that I don't fuck diet and the zeros, they're just as bad. They're just as bad. Oh, it's sugar free. Okay, that doesn't mean it's not chemical and dangerous free. Like,
Well, and that too. That's actually maybe a good switching point here. While I'm just fucking up everywhere here.
You're a mess.
I'm a mess. Is the packaging on foods are very misleading, right? Like, hey, this is green.
Zero sugar.
Ooh. And I mean, aspartame, right? Just by itself, aspartame. That we could have a whole episode just on aspartame itself, but like that.
All those artificial sugars.
Well,
all of them.
There's a reason you're not allowed. They're not allowed to show diet soda commercials anymore because it's a presentation of it being healthier for you, but the aspartame is 200 times sweeter than sugar, and it's worse for you.
Yeah.
We have like a whole generation that thought diet was better for you because it said diet, and it's actually making things worse.
I can remember the story I was told. I was probably in junior high or high school, and I feel like maybe my dad can remind me, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he had a coworker that's when Sweet and Low became really popular.
Was it back in like the mid-90s?
Probably early 90s or
Yeah.
maybe even late 80s. Right around then, Sweet and Low became really popular, and they had Sweet and Low in everything. And they were struggling with headaches, nosebleeds. She had like really irregular menstrual cycles, all kinds of crazy stuff, and it was all attributed to the amount of Sweet and Low they were putting in their bodies. Maybe I'm just making that up in my head, but I swear that was a story that I had heard.
I believe it. I mean, it's
But didn't Sweet and Low have lawsuits and things against them? I don't want to like.
I don't
Sorry,
know.
legal teams.
Well, let's check
I'm
our
just hypothetically.
let's check our research.
Hey,
team.
ChatGPT.
Did
Let's just.
I'm actually
I
typing.
just feel like there was something. I mean, they've always said that there's been. Aspartame is one of the. Isn't Sweet and Low aspartame?
I'm checking right now. And
I can't remember.
our research department is
Slow. Our research department is also being production and host today.
running sound.
We didn't invite Brett today, everybody.
Yeah,
Just so you know.
Brett's in timeout.
How old is he? How many minutes of timeout does he get?
37. We do it by age around here.
I don't know. I think I like it without him. Next week he's not invited either.
Like people have a little dunce cat form in the corner.
Besides, he's just going to sidetrack our conversation, and clearly we have a whole planned agenda.
Well, our internet is down right now, so I can't search it.
Well, let's just say hypothetically I heard that.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, there was, again, huge issues with especially sweeteners, and we're having that same issue right now with food dyes. That's a huge thing going on, especially was it Mothers Against Food Dyes or whatever.
There's a lot of mothers against things.
Mothers Against everything. But
Yeah.
I saw a few weeks ago there was this protest at Kellogg's, and it was
Yeah.
like a bunch of moms out there, and like
Yeah, the food dyes and that's a whole nother thing, because then you're starting to get into like folic acid and all of those
Yep.
things that they put and cover like chemicals and pesticides and wheats and flours and things like that.
Well, tell everyone about the cheese and the.
Oh,
Let's get into that a little bit.
Again, I don't have all my facts, folks, but in general,
We can widely speculate.
I was
on this podcast.
halfway listening to this. No, I had seen something on the Instagrams, and they were talking about cheese. And he was like, yeah, if you're going to eat cheese, buy a block of cheese and shred it yourself. And if you do that, you'll know that like it kind of sticks together. You notice that about cheese. So, and of course, it's easy and convenient to buy the already shredded stuff. Well, have
Right.
you ever noticed that stuff doesn't stick together in the bag, and it has almost like a coating on it so it doesn't stick together? And I was all, what? Like, he's like, that's really extremely bad for you because it's coated in this to keep it shredded and all. And I was like, what? I never thought about it. I mean, back in the day when my kids were little and I was at the grocery store with a calculator, I always bought a block of cheese because I couldn't afford
Right.
shredded cheese. And now I'm like, need to go back to block cheese.
Well, it's just it's crazy how we are being lied to on a daily basis. Almost
We're trying to
hourly.
like cut corners, make it quicker, make it faster. Our busy lifestyles, all of these things, and we're just complicating it. Why just take a step back and just shed all of that crap and do it the right way? Do it organically. Do it naturally. The whole food kind of way. Yes, is it more expensive? Probably. Will you feel better about yourself? For sure. And over time, I think once your body sheds all of that crap, you're like, oh, this was the right decision. And you could probably do some calculations on it. You probably spend less money too.
medical bills, those kind of things. But another, I don't know, all this stuff is coming back to me here. Like, was it last week or week before? I was listening to the news, and they're talking. Who owns Lunchables? Oscar Mayer or something like that.
I think it's so. Yeah.
They just got
Those are
kicked.
delicious too.
Oh, they're delicious.
Terrible.
But they got kicked out of all the schools in Texas.
If you take something like a Lunchable or some of these other things, and you could put them in your refrigerator for a year and they don't mold. Hello.
Yes. Problems here.
This is not good, folks.
Well, we're also
a loaf of bread, for example. Like
Facts.
all the ones that are full of all the preservatives and all of the things, you could stick it in your refrigerator and it won't mold like for forever. I'm like, that bread is like 3 months old.
'cause
Why
it's not
is there no
bread.
mold? Right.
It's not bread.
The stuff without the preservatives and everything else will mold fairly quickly.
And I think that's a deterrent for some people buying groceries. Is like I put it in my fridge and I waste it.
Make your own bread, people.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a cool like hobby, to be honest. Like,
Yeah. I haven't mastered it yet. I have one bread I do fairly decently. Then everybody talks about sourdough. I tried to do sourdough starters.
isn't that hard?
Folks, this is a funny story. So, of course, I Googled it on the interwebs, how to do sourdough starter. So we tried to make it, and you like take the starter and you feed it every day, and you try. So I'm like, okay, this looks generally like what it's supposed to. It's all bubbly and, smelling like feet. I'm like, this has got to be right. And then I'm like, okay, we can make bread with it. I made bread all right. Bread that could be used as the building blocks to a building. It was so dense and so thick and so hard. It was hilarious. So that was my one trial. So now I'm always like on even Facebook Marketplace, you can find people who are selling sourdough starter. So I'm like, well, maybe I need to buy someone else's and follow their directions and do it. But it is kind of but you can do all kinds of things with it apparently. It also has a lot less gluten, supposedly, so it's better overall. I don't know, especially better than the fast-acting yeast or whatever. Like, yeah.
Well, that's a good pivot point to talking about, and like, as we're getting into Thanksgiving and whatnot. Hey, what can I have? What can I have?
Turkey.
Turkey.
Lots of turkey.
Get that tryptophan in there. But one thing you and I talk about too is defining what's good and bad. Right. So, for example, carbs.
I have a hard time. I start getting overwhelmed real quickly.
Well, and that's everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Because like we just talked about, everyone's inundated with this is healthy, this isn't healthy.
Like, I need this much protein. I need this many carbs. I need this many fats. Well, what about what kind of fat? This fat, that fat. Don't eat this fat. There's only this one. No oil, that oil, this. And I'm like, seeds, fuck the seeds, veggies, no. Like, I don't know what to do. Then it starts to get, oh, this protein, that protein, don't you need that one? What about this one? Oh my gosh, yes, eat legumes. Don't eat legumes. What do you mean mushrooms? Those are terrible. Like you start, yes. And then all the demons that I have in my head are like, if it's this hard, fuck it. Just do what you've always done.
Exactly. And like I like what you said there, because people demonize things like, hey, fats are bad for you. Carbs are bad for you. It's like, no, you need both of those in moderation to survive. Most of your energy comes from carbs. Most of your brain activity comes from fats. Your neurons are covered in myelin sheaths.
Choosing the right ones, really.
So very simply, just like take carbs, for example, things like cake and bread and those kind of things are bad carbs. Things like legumes.
It's unfortunate. They're delicious.
They are delicious, but they turn into sugar. People don't know that. Turns straight into sugar when it gets in yourself. But complex carbs like legumes and lentils and those kind of things are great. So if you guys are trying to make
lentils, why do you always say lentils and sweet potatoes? Listen, Tripp, I'm not doing lentils and sweet potatoes.
I love lentils.
Ugh, I'm okay with them. Okay, I'm okay with them. Just okay with them.
Well, same thing with fats too. It's like you see a lot of these diets like, hey, you can't have any fats at all, and you see them walking around like zombies. They can't even think.
Well, your brain needs fats. Like, your brain needs that. Like, it's just, I think for me, I'm like, okay, if it is like chemically made and processed in a factory somewhere, if I can't read the label, maybe I should avoid it.
Or read the ingredients.
Yes. Like, if you can't read the ingredients, exactly.
Or know what the ingredient is, really. If it's protein,
I just
phosphate.
think there's so many things to know. It's impossible to know it all. And then it's hard for me because I'll start listening to certain podcasts or certain people like, Gary Brecka and even Robert Kennedy. And there's a few other Huberman?
Yeah.
They start talking and there's so much information. And I'm like, oh my God. And it all makes sense. But then going to put that into your life is really hard. It's like I have all of this highway of traffic of information and there's no bridge to get my little navigator across the bridge to actually doing it.
Well,
does that make sense?
Because this industry is not standardized, right? There's 5 different ways to skin the cat here, and that doesn't fly in most businesses. And I think that's why what we're doing here with genetic testing is so important, because that breaks through that boundary of what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And again, like we're the first people that say like, I don't know what works for you until I get you tested. I really don't, because it works for me, it might not work for you.
Name.
And I mean that goes into diet too. Some of us need higher carb diets. Some of us need higher fat diets, protein diets.
Some of us want that.
Some of us.
I would like more carbs, please.
Like my carbs, please.
I love a good carb.
I'll run 3 miles a day if I
love
have
pasta. No, we already talked about this. I don't run.
Well, I had a.
I'm not going to even run from an attacker trip. Okay, I'm going to be real with you people. I am taller than the average man, so I have a good chance of kicking you before. So come at me, bro. Throw 'em at me.
Did Leslie just drop a challenge?
I'm not running from an attacker, and I'm not running from a bear. I'm just.
Let's go into the genetics about that.
I'm just taking my chances. Come on, everybody. I took karate once.
To karate.
Karate. Ooh, that reminds me of that. Did I send you that chick who's like kickboxing? Oh, she's like my spirit animal. Everybody, I'll have to find her because every time I watch her, I get all excited. Like I want to kick the shit out of something real bad. Hey, Tripp, do you want to do kickboxing with me? Do you want me to I'll kick you. It's fine.
I got pads in the car too. That's the worst part.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I think I could do some damage to you, Tripp.
I'm sure you could. Honestly, some of these seniors that we got boxing, like I made the joke. This one guy, shout out to Al. You're actually an amazing human being, but I think we taught him too well. Because now he's just like throwing fast, heavy, sharp punches, and you're like sitting there kind of like backing up a little bit. You know, like, oh, don't, ow.
You're like cringing. You're like, oh.
Well, he punched Brett in the face one week. It was the funniest thing. It was so funny, just like right in the forehead, and Brett got stunned real quick.
I think that's great.
It's great. So
sidetrack.
Yeah, that was
meal
worth it.
prep.
That was worth
nutrients. No, that's what. Well, we had talked about. I used to be fairly decent at tracking everything too. That's something else that I've kind of gotten out of the habit of.
You have an app for that, right?
I do have an app for it. It's called Lose It. It's actually pretty good, people. Because it'll do your macro for you. It'll track your exercise. It'll do all of that stuff.
Lose It?
Yeah, it's called Lose It. You can do the free version or you do the paid version. You can also build recipes in it. It's like a lot of the food tracker ones, honestly.
They don't sponsor us, by the way.
No, you can scan stuff and it'll tell you what the facts are on it or whatever, or what the calories are. So it has a pretty big network. It really does. Some things I'm like, I don't know if that's right, because there are people that will add stuff to it in the community, and you're like, well, I don't think that's right. So I will go back and double check if it's like, oh, so-and-so added this food. I'm like, But you can go to the grocery store and scan the barcode on something, and it will pop up the facts on it. So
I think that is so important, is having that at your fingertips.
Yeah. And you can make little notes and all of that stuff too. I like it. I know there are probably ones that sync to like your Apple Watch and your freaking Samsungs and all of that. But
I'm sure that one does too. I'm sure that one you can.
Yeah, there's a certain level of it, but it's not like your Fitbit or something like that. But I don't know. It was helpful. Because I think you get in this mindset too. You're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. You know what you're doing. Leslie, you don't remember what you wore yesterday, let alone what you ate yesterday. And the busier I am, the less I'm paying attention. And I get really bad at like not taking care of me, because that's not my first priority ever. I'm never the first priority, which is unfortunate. And I'm trying to change that, people. Okay?
She's doing a lot better.
Trying to find my center.
She's doing a lot better.
I feel like that'll really kind of help me focus in a little bit more and like, what's the word I'm looking for? But just, I don't know, fine tune it some.
Dialed in.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Well,
because like if you asked me today what my percentage is of protein, I'd be like, I had some chicken, bro.
It was still alive too.
Speaking of chickens, the ladies are out roaming around in the garden right now.
Well, I think that's important for all of us. Even like even taking work. I know that's kind of a tangent here, but even taking workouts. If I don't write down what I did that day, I'll go back and do the same thing the next week and not push myself.
Yeah.
That's if I could afford it, I'd have a personal trainer.
I'm not. Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, I'm not a pusher of myself. Like, I have extremely high standards. They're unattainable. They're unreachable. They're almost impossible. So I never meet them. So I'm constantly, I don't know. That's why I pay you. Let's be real. I need that accountability. I'm just not, I would like to think that I could do it myself, and sometimes I can, but I just don't trust myself yet. I really don't.
Well, I think there's a limit to how, some people are just animals and they'll just push themselves crazy, but a majority of us,
I will make an
professionals-
excuse as to why I can't do this or that, or I have this going on and I have this and
Yep.
and I will. And I just know that about myself because it isn't fun.
You can't just fall through this just blindly. I think that's one of the big key takeaways here for you guys listening right now is quantify what you're doing. You don't necessarily have to get genetically tested or what have you, but start writing, like Leslie said, start writing things down. And it's like,
Yep.
crap, last week I had like 3,000
And
calories.
even if you don't write it down, take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Because that's real simple. We're all taking pictures of shit all the time on our phones.
Yeah.
So oh, hey, I just ate that Pop-Tart.
And then
Take a picture of it.
Save it to your nutrition
Go back
folder.
tomorrow and be like, hey, I ate Pop-Tarts for breakfast
That's a
every
great
day.
idea. It's actually a really great idea.
And then you wonder why you have this sugar crash at 10:30 every day. Well, could it be the Pop-Tart and Frappuccino that you ate for breakfast?
Well, and I think that's another good point here is that we are our own gatekeepers, right? So we're like, oh, I can't stop eating Twizzlers and this kind of stuff. It's like it's
They
your
are
choice.
delicious, though.
They're delicious. This is a Twizzler place, not a Red Vine place.
Twizzler, Triscuits.
But you are the
on
gatekeeper
board.
to your house. So if there is food in your house that's bad for you, and you bought it, that's the issue, right? So
What are you trying to say, Tripp? That
Trying
I
to
need
say to the
throw
people-
away some shit?
I'm trying to say to the people, throw away the garbage and
Yeah.
when you're at the grocery store, try to make better decisions.
Well,
on
and it's
things.
hard being at home with a family because you go, oh, well, so-and-so loves
that?
this.
Yep.
I'll justify it in my brain. I have gotten a little bit better about some of those things. It is harder because I do have, a spouse and kids at home.
Right.
And the boys now, they're old enough, though, that I'm like, well, if you want it, go buy it. You have jobs, you have money, you are over the age of 18, or soon to be. Shout out to Nick and his birthday this weekend.
Happy birthday!
I know. Kid will be 19. And to think I only look like I'm 21.
Just fresh out of the womb.
It's all the hair dye. But yeah, and that is difficult for me because as a mom, and I go in there and I'm like, oh, I know he loves this. I'm gonna get these for him, but it's I end up eating them too. So
It's hard. It's
yeah.
especially if you had little kids.
Yeah,
Like
it is
little-
hard with little kids.
Little kids, with those kind of things, trying to get diets and stuff. But
My
also-
22-year-old ate my freaking expensive yogurt recently. It's the cashew. I can't remember the
It's
name
not
of
the
it.
Deo one, right?
But no, it's one of the ones that are. It's like a plant-based plain yogurt. There's no sugar in it, no nothing. And I like it periodically. I prefer the milk ones, the cow ones. I prefer those, but I will buy the plant-based one periodically. And that kid, they're like freaking $6 for a container. He ate the whole damn thing with my bougie granola. And he's like, it's all right. I said, it's all right. Then don't eat it if you don't like it. He's like, well, I like it. He's like, it's filling. And I'm like, uh-huh. And I was like, put a little honey in it. He goes, yeah, I figured that out. I'm like, damn, now this kid's eating my expensive honey, my expensive granola, my expensive yogurt.
Well, I think you've had a very positive impact on your family doing these things. You've told me about, your kids robbing your meal preps out of the fridge
Yep.
and stuff like that.
Yep.
They're going to
That's
the gym
why I have to
now.
make so many.
Well,
That's what they agree. They like it.
Well, you've been doing such a good job because you are the gatekeeper for your family, groceries and stuff like that, and you're making a positive influence on them.
I'm in control, Tripp.
You wear the britches. But I think everyone listening out there that is the gatekeeper of the food and those kind of things is
Yep.
you have a direct option. Yeah, I know you're tired after you work and those kind of things, but you're also got to take care of your family health wise. You're seeing kids with blood pressure being high and stuff.
I will say little kids are pretty resilient. That's one thing about them being younger is usually a week or two of something like that, they catch on pretty quickly. They're
Yeah.
pretty resilient. That's like taking away pacifiers and things like that. Yeah, it's a week of real shit. but it ends up being okay.
Yeah.
Older kids, it's nice in a way because I can go, okay, go to the store, buy it yourself. If you want to go to McDonald's, then you go to McDonald's.
Right.
But I'm not buying it for you. That's kind of nice too. It is hard as a mom to be like, he doesn't need me anymore.
But there's also got to be the other side where you're proud of, like, I've
Right.
raised a kid to the point he can take care of himself.
Yeah, even though they shouldn't be going to McDonald's.
No.
Jeez.
No. But I guess that's got to be hard for you, too. It's like seeing them grow up is like you want to be there with them.
It's just a different phase.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It changes.
Well, I know we're getting kind of towards the end here. With Thanksgiving coming up, some things that you guys can do to help not eat so much is try to have as many glasses of water you can.
God, Tripp,
I
you're so
know.
boring.
I know.
It's Thanksgiving. It's a holiday. Look at that's the fat girl in me.
This is why I don't get invited to too many Thanksgivings because I'm a nutritionist.
He was real fun. I'm like, how's that broccoli, Trump?
I had this ex-girlfriend I went to Thanksgiving at their place, and everyone's going around the table kind of like introducing to everybody and what they do. And I told them, I'm Tripp, I'm a nutritionist and personal trainer. And everyone stared at me like, oh, the fun guys. It's like, oh, great.
I should have lied.
Yeah, I work in the sewer department.
Work at a dispensary.
We're about to eat a lot.
I'm a pet babysitter. You should have just changed it up. Yeah, holidays are very hard. They're hard with my family, especially because, I'm married and Italian, so food is love. And I've said that before. And so it will show up at my house in mass. And it is very difficult. And for someone who's just started on this journey, it is really hard not to slide down that slippery slope. For me, it is still really hard. It is difficult because I love all the traditions that we do and I love all the food that I make. And that's part of how I love everybody too. So that's a hard one for me. But I can't control what other people eat. I can only control what I eat.
Right.
So usually if I stay busy, I don't eat as much of it. But then it's also hard too, because then you're like, it's the bites, taste, and licks, the BLTs, bite, lick, and taste, the BLTs. You just, let me taste that, let me bite that, and before you know it, you've had 2,000 calories and all the
Right.
things that you've tasted and licked and took a bite of. And then you sit down and have a whole plate. So Weight Watchers talks about that too a lot. The bites, licks, it's BLT, bites, licks, and tastes, licks.
It's absolutely
Seizure.
it's absolutely true too. Another thing you guys can do for Thanksgiving is use smaller plates. I know that sounds kind of silly, but it tricks you into thinking that you're more full than you are.
Or go and I have tons of dishes at my house, but I have some really pretty ones that I've inherited that were like from a grandparent and so it's fun to be like, oh, look at this special dish we're using. And most people are like, oh, this is so great. They're not even realizing that you're
Shrinking them.
plate down. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's a trick for you guys too for kids. Start using smaller plates if you're having issues with portion size.
We have all expanded our stomachs into something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's time to shrink them. I'm going to shut up before I get myself in trouble here. Leslie, thank you so much for coming on and talking nutrition.
Getting back in the swing of things. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a season where this is time of the year is kind of hard with things going on with that, but it's also the best season to start getting healthy too. So sweatshirt weather, bulking season.
Whatever, Tripp.
Well,
I'm supposed to be positive. Whatever, Tripp. Woo.
Tonality. So you guys subscribe, share. Thank you guys so much for listening. We have some amazing guests coming up here the next 2 weeks, so make sure you guys are watching out. We drop an episode usually once a week. But happy Thanksgiving if we don't talk to you guys. Happy holidays. Happy Turkey Day. And then make sure you guys watch some football. Tis the time of year for football.
Well, yeah. That's the only thing going on, right?
Well, even if they're in other countries.
Football and turkey?
Well,
That's it.
there's other countries listening too that don't have Thanksgiving. So.
Well, bummer for them.
Bummer for them. You guys are missing out on an amazing holiday.
Yeah.
Well, all right,
great.
guys. Peace.